Happy Friday, guys. I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and look what the unicorn just dropped off in my office. Well, it didn't just drop it off. I've had it for a couple of days, but here's the Motorola DROID Bionic. It's finally available 9 months later after its initial announcement at CES. It's been reworked, retooled, and redesigned into what you see in my hand right now. It's available now at Verizon for $299.99, so it's right up there in that sub $300 price tier, but it packs quite a few decent specifications. A dual-core, 1 gigahertz processor, 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, Android 2.3, 4.3 inch display, front-facing camera, and all kinds of goodies. Best of all, it's packing Verizon's 4G LTE network. Now, is this a device to get? Should you go with maybe one of the high-end 3G devices, or should you rock this bad boy? We'll find out in the full review, but first, special thanks to my buddies at Best Buy because they hook us up with phones like this. We're going to get a couple of these for use in our One Paw Bandit game. So when you go into Best Buy Mobile to buy this, you don't deal with rebates, paperwork, waiting 8 to 10 weeks. You'll walk out paying the after rebate price. It's Best Buy Mobile's pledge to you, and it's super cool. I don't like paperwork. You probably don't either. Not a big fan of it. It wastes paper, wastes trees. Go with Best Buy Mobile, you'll save the rebates. Enough of that, let's get into it. Full review. Motorola DROID Bionic. Is this the phone? Should you? It's a part 2 of the video, and one thing I always like to do in the reviews is reach out to you on Twitter and see what you'd like to have covered in the video. So I'm looking at some of the tweets right now, and we'll start by doing the quadrant standard. We're going to do things a little bit out of order in part 2. We'll start by doing the quadrant standard test to get an idea of how fast this device actually is. We'll go into quadrant standard and take a look. Yes, run full benchmark. And I want to talk a little bit about the overall voice quality while we're doing that. I've been using this extensively for the past 48 hours. I've actually been making a lot of personal calls, a lot of business calls, and more on this device. And I've been really pleased with a couple of things. One, the earpiece is nice and loud, and two, Motorola's always done a great job in the wireless radio department. Say what you will about Motorola, say what you will about the user interface, you may love it, you may hate it, but their wireless radios have always been fantastic. You see the Photon, the Atrix, they always do a knockout job with that. So call quality's been exceptional. I took it to a Verizon dead spot near the university in Northeast Charlotte, and it's a typical dead spot, and the device maintained the call. Now, there was some choppiness, but I noticed that everything looked better. Making the phone call easier to hear, less choppiness overall than something else on Verizon, some of the non-Motorola devices. So very, very good in the quality of the call quality, that is, and overall reception. So I'm getting 2,133 in quadrant standard right now. I've seen this device go as high as 2,900, but right now 2,133 in quadrant standard. So not quite up to par with the Galaxy S2 devices, that have gotten easily into the 3000s, but still definitely fast. Let's take a look at the speed test as well, so we can take a look. Verizon's 4G LTE network is by far the fastest out of the 4G technologies in the nation. Either AT&T's LTE, which isn't rolled out yet, but they're using HSPA Plus right now, and not to get too nerdy and confusing with the terms, but AT&T and T-Mobile are using HSPA Plus, Sprint's using WiMAX, and Verizon's using LTE right now. But we'll begin the test and take a look. It's consistently proven to be very, very fast. They say 5 to 12 megabits per second on the download is what you can expect, and 2 to 5 megabits per second on the upload is what you can expect. I meant to change that over to megabits per second, but we'll get a rough estimate. About 11 megabits per second. And on the download, actually, I'm going to go ahead and change that over while that's loading. We'll just do another test. And let's see what we do on the upload. I have a feeling I kind of screwed it up, but we'll do another one. That's okay. That's okay. Good thing about video, we can do a second one. Oh yeah. Restart test. And you can see that the download was roughly 11 megabits per second. Much faster than anything else I've seen. They do a great job. Now let's take a look here. And one thing I have to give Verizon credit for with the LTE, if it's something you're interested in, and you live in a big city, you live in like a Charlotte or an Atlanta or Chicago, and you may live on the outskirts, you may live in one of the suburb towns, one of the outlying areas, you're probably going to get LTE if you're within a reasonable area of the city. One thing they've done a great job with it is they've really branched it out, and they've really saturated the outlying areas of the city with LTE as well. You look at like WiMAX with Sprint, it's great within the city limits, but you go 5 miles outside of the city and you lose your WiMAX coverage. With this, you can be in the outlying cities in Charlotte and within about 20 miles and get LTE coverage. So 10 megabits per second, almost 11, and then 3.24 megabits per second on the upload. So right there in between what Verizon says you can expect. Now this thing has an 8 megapixel camera, and I'm covering some of the stuff you asked on Twitter as well, but then I'll get into the specific questions. 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, and take a chance, or if you haven't gotten a chance yet, take a look at the video on YouTube that I did with the 1080p when I went to pick this up in Greenville, South Carolina. Cute little town, picked it up, got to shoot one of the streets, really cool video, take a look at it on YouTube. But you can see here, this is of course an unofficial camera test, but we'll see here see what it looks like. Now, like the Motorola devices, I used a Droid 3 when I was in Italy on vacation, and the pictures come out somewhat grainy. They're not as good as even some of the other 5 megapixel options, like the iPhone. I think it has a much better camera. The Nokia N8 has a better camera, but it's still going to be pretty decent. Now, the 1080p HD video was pretty fantastic, but you can see here, easy to make out the Apple logo, but you can see there's some graininess to the picture. Now, some of that's going to be the PenTile display as well. My advice is take a look at it on the screen and see what you think. When I exported these out to email and took a look at them, they're still a little bit grainy, a little bit blurrier than what I would expect from a high-end 8 megapixel camera, but still, it's nice to see that on this device as opposed to something like the 5 megapixel camera that you see on the Atrix 4G. Now take a look at this. You can immediately share here and take a look. You can do email, Gmail, Picasa, text messaging, Twitter, VCast Media Manager, a lot of different options to share this with your friends. And when you shoot a video, you actually cannot put 1080p video directly on YouTube. You have to export it out of the phone and then upload it. But when you do 720p video, you can upload it directly to YouTube from the phone. Just thought that was an interesting quirk, and it's something that if you do a lot of video and you upload it to YouTube, something to keep in mind. Now let's go to the Twitter questions. Please measure boot time. Let's do it. Take a look at boot time. Power it off, and we'll power it right back on. And actually, you know what? I'm going to make it even more fair than that. We're going to pull off the battery door. And we're going to remove the battery. Whoop, and we're going to drop the battery. It's okay, it's okay, it's part of the test. Somebody asked for a drop test. There's your drop test. Battery, not the phone. And we're going to put this sucker back on. And it's interesting, that didn't go on quite the way I expected it to. It's kind of a flimsy little battery door there, something I'd be concerned about over a couple of months of use. But here we go, from cold boot. It's powering on. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000. I have a stopwatch. 6 1000, 7 1000, 8 1000, 9 1000, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You want me to keep counting? I'm probably just going to stop. 18, 19. More. 25, 30. 35, 40. So about 45 seconds with the, okay, stop droiding at me. It's droiding at me. That's my new phrase. It's droiding at me. Droid, droid. 45 seconds roughly, give or take a few seconds to start up. And let's go down through here and see what's in the, I want to see more a web top with a laptop dock. Well, they didn't provide the laptop accessory, but that is certainly a neat option. You know, these phones have great media ecosystems. You can get the web top dock like you could with the Atrix, pick it up for $300, so it's pretty pricey. I mean, you're spending $600 for a little laptop accessory and a phone, but an additional $300 gets you the lap dock, an additional $100 gets you the HD media dock, and then the $40 gets you the standard dock, if I remember the prices correctly. So a lot of accessory options for this, great media ecosystem, which is pretty cool, and of course it has the HDMI output, so you can use that to hook up to your TV. Camera, I showed that. Was it worth the wait? Now this is an interesting question. Was it worth the wait? I mean, you can see how quick this device is. You can see how well it performs. It's got some neat widgets. It's up to date, at least in the software front. It's been retooled and retweaked on the design front as well. Was it worth the wait? Well, the Nexus Prime's rumored. The Galaxy S2 devices are coming out. A lot of different Android options. I mean, you know, it's Android. Something releases every 9 or 10 days. But I do still think it's worth the wait. I think it's a good device. It's definitely Verizon's best 4G LTE device. You know, right? They really did knock it out of the park with this one. It's a good device. I'd recommend this one above any of the other current devices, if anything, because there was a little bit of a divide before. If you wanted a high-end Android device, you really were relegated to the 3G phones. You know, the Droid X2 or the Droid 3 with a dual-core processor. So it's frustrating because you're like, I want 4G, but I can't get dual-core and I can't get 4G in the same phone. Not the case anymore. You can get this for $299. So yes, it's pricey, but this is the best on Verizon right now. Now, will this be the best in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks with a typical cycle of Android? Probably not. But yeah, I still think it's worth the wait. It's kind of frustrating, you know, coming from all the way from January, 9 months later, just seeing it. But still, I think it's worth the wait. And I think for a lot of people that really didn't follow, you know, the normal consumer that didn't follow it, I think it'll be perfectly fine. The camera and a quadrant test did that. A walk through the Moto Blur did that in part 1. It in my hands. I like that because I said, what would you like to see? It in my hands. That's pretty creative, Patrick Mulligan. Shout out to you. And then, would you be honest how it's far worth? Okay, so that's exactly what somebody said. You know, they said the Atrix is $99. Why is this $299? That was basically the question. It's pricey. You know, Verizon's priced their 4G devices. They've created a new price tier, and frankly, they can do it. You know, it's very much an Apple-like move, if you will. You know, they created this new price tier, $199 for the 3G phones, $249 to $299 for the 4G phones. People are buying them. You know, it's supply and demand. I mean, people are buying at $249 and $299, so there's no reason to lower the price if they're selling, and they're selling well. Now, that said, you can get this through third-party retailers like Amazon Wireless, Wirefly for a little bit cheaper. So if it's something that interests you, take a look at that. And then let's see, a drop test. Okay, it performed pretty well. And extensive camera view, yep, no, I understand. Let's see. Cool, so that covers the Twitter questions. You know, but all in all, this is a great device. I've been really pleased with it. It's a nice addition to Verizon's Android lineup. It's nice to see dual core and 4G in one device. Now I got to show you this because this is actually one of my favorite applications, is social location, which I can't really go into it too far because it is pretty freakishly accurate with social location. We'll go into this so you can take a look here. And let me pull it out so we can get the channels. And you can see it brings up your location based on GPS, and then it brings up hot food, coffee, Yelp restaurants, local events, order food to go. So let me pull out local events here. I just want to make sure it doesn't pull up anything too close. Let's see here. What about the Flapjack fundraiser? Let's just say that. It's Flapjack fundraiser. You can see here the event details. It's running tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and it's a food fundraiser, and it's at J.W. Clay Boulevard. Let's see. That's perhaps. I'm trying to think where exactly. I mean, I know J.W. Clay, but I'm trying to think which restaurant that is. Flapjack fundraiser. Tickets will be sold for $7 for an adult. So cool. So it shows all these different little fundraisers and different things you can do in your local community, you know, that are 2 or 5 miles or 10 miles or 15 miles away from you. So it's nice to see that. And J.W. Clay at 8700. I don't know exactly which restaurant that is, but Ladies of Inspiration Purpose. It's a cool little program. So you go and you're like, I want some coffee. I'm sitting here in this town I've never been in. Well, you can find it using this little social location application, which I think is pretty cool. So that's certainly a unique thing. And of course the Moto Print, I don't have a PC, so I can't really try that. I couldn't install the software, but Moto Print allows you to print wirelessly, which I think is pretty nifty as well. So a lot of different options on this, and all in all, a good device. It's very fast. You can see how quickly the transition effects take place. But I'm looking forward to doing some dogfights because there are some great contenders on the market between this and something like the Revolution or something like the Atrix 4G or perhaps the Photon 4G. So be prepared because there are a lot of dogfights that are going to come up. This is definitely the reigning champ on Verizon right now, though, in terms of performance and in terms of overall features and things like that. Now, is it the best device? Is it the best bang for the buck? We'll have to find out in the dogfight, but it's available now after 9 months, and you can pick it up at your local Verizon store today. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with the Motorola Bionic, the Droid Bionic, that is. It's droiding at me. Droid on PhoneDog.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. We're giving away a ton of tablets as part of our greatest tech giveaway ever. So be sure, like our page, enter to win at Facebook.com/PhoneDog by clicking on the sweepstakes link to the left of the page. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron. Let me know what you think of this device. Were you going to buy it but decided not to? Are you waiting for something better? Or is this the best device since sliced bread and you were there at 8 o'clock when the store opened on Thursday? Let me know, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on Facebook at my fan page at Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Thanks much for watching as always. Have a great weekend. And stay tuned for more coverage with Motorola DROID Bionic. Have a great weekend. See you next time.